I today have a relationship with my sons where they can be honest about what's going on with them. I had a talk with one recently, and I learned something, and what shocked me wasn't what happened. What shocked me is he told me the truth about it right off the bat, and that's only because it's only because of the relationship that I've built in recovery with him. And my oldest son told me, he said, "I've seen you struggle, but I've never seen you quit." And that was good. That was good to hear, because for years I showed them what addiction looked like, and today they can see what the recovery looks like. And my oldest son wants to be a therapist now, not a cop, thank God. Ooh, I think the first thing I would say is there's a better way of life. Recovery's possible. It's not the end of the world if you have to ask for help, and it's going to save your family probably and your life. Well, the formation of wellness units, but specifically like for Nashville, where I was from, is what they're able to do with those guys when they leave treatment. They're really taking care of them. They're giving them time to do outpatient therapies, giving them time to do normal therapies, trauma therapies, and stuff like that. So they're really taking the time. So like these guys go away for a certain amount of time, and they come back, and there's still things that need to happen. Like you don't just go to treatment in 30 days you're better. It's a continuing thing, because treatment is just the start of it. What I see is departments really giving them the opportunity to continue getting better. So what they do, the initial treatment's not wasted. Yeah. My post treatment was I went back to work, and I had gone to intensive outpatient, and I went one time and said, no, this isn't for me. I'm not going to do this anymore. But I didn't want to do it, and so my mindset at the time was to go back to work. I think, I really hope that doesn't happen. I really do. But the fact that more officers die by suicide in the line of duty is pathetic, and it's ridiculous. Because we'll have an officer die in a traffic stop. Let's say he's shot. People will look at that. You'll plan. You'll like decide if there's new trainings that are needed and all that stuff. But when an officer kills himself, they don't do anything. And how many opportunities do we miss as a department to help? I'm not saying you could stop anything. I'm just saying you could definitely help. But it's years ago. We'll just say that you didn't know any better, right? Today, in today's world, you can't say that anymore. You really can't. So, if you need to do better, then do better. But we owe these guys. We can't send these guys out, put them in harm's way, and then abandon them. And that's what we're doing in some places. It's very hard to say what you would say to a first responder himself, because they're all different. We're all ego-driven. I think the best thing that you can do, and you could say, you could tell them that, recovery is possible. It's okay. It's okay to ask for help, right? But I think the best thing we can do with people who have been through it is give an example and show them what a great life it is. But I would just say, if I would say anything, it's just step forward. If you need help, come get it. You need it. If you get to the point where you think you need help, you probably need help. I have guys all the time call me, and I'm like, well, if you got to call me, you're probably at a point where you need something, right? And they'll ask me all the time, what do I need? And my answer is I have no idea. Talk to a professional, talk to a wellness unit, talk to a therapist, talk to a treatment center. And there's nothing wrong with a phone call, to see. Maybe you don't need anything, I don't know. But look into your options, decide what you want, and then do it. God, yeah. It's one of those, people ask me that, they'll say, what would you tell your younger self? And I'd say, well, it really doesn't matter, I wouldn't have listened anyways, But that's, it's, as I look through everything that I've been through and reflect back on it, the way that I fought treatment was, it's ridiculous. And the moment I started listening, I got better. And so it'd be listen to somebody else. It's how much you lose because of how much I lost because of me. Everything I lost was my fault, and you got to look at that. You got to reflect on it. And so I just, and it's not even about losing things and all that stuff. It's about getting better and living a better life. Bad things are still going to happen. Bad things still happen to me all the time, but my life is better. And I try to be a better human, than I used to be. But man, just get help. Just listen for a change, and I said it earlier. Like I had to come to the conclusion that everything that I tried to do failed. You know what I mean? When it comes to recovery, and so. One of the biggest things that I did for my recovery outside of stopping the drinking was therapy. And I was dead set against it. I hated it. I didn't want to do it. Saved my life, absolutely. you know, I met my wife now about 2 years in recovery, when I was really coming out of divorce and all that stuff. And she had her own traumas, like everybody does. And I think it's made us listen to each other better. I definitely have my moments where I say something and I'm like, I can't believe I just said that. And, but I'm able today and stop and say, you know what, instead of saying, why do you feel that way? It's like, now it's like, damn, I can actually understand why you feel that way. Like, I can see that. And so it makes, I think it makes me a more caring husband, definitely better listener, which I definitely needed in my, definitely needed to, like most men do. But I'm able to share with her things that I've never shared before, and I think that makes us stronger. So. That's a hard one, man. As far as making me a better father, I coached around 40 ball teams between myself. I was always there, and I thought that made me a good father. I really did. And it was like, if something bad happened, I had like two lists. All right, good things and bad things. And all right, I coached a ball team, and then I did this. All right, they're even now. That's not how it works. And I hurt my children bad. Today I'm more present. I was always there, but was I really? Was I really? And so, I today have a relationship with my sons where they can be honest about what's going on with them. I had a talk with one recently, and I learned something, and what shocked me wasn't what happened. What shocked me is he told me the truth about it right off the bat, and that's only because it's only because of the relationship that I've built in recovery with him. And my oldest son told me, he said, I've seen you struggle, but I've never seen you quit. And that was good. That was good to hear, because for years I showed them what addiction looked like, and today they can see what the recovery looks like. And my oldest son wants to be a therapist now, not a cop, thank God. So it's just made me more caring with other people, because we get very callous, and we get very callous with folks, almost. And I won't say it's not intentional. It's just what happens. Now I'm able to listen better to people. I'm able to help them better, yeah. But just I think we all want to be good parents for sure, And I think the best thing that happened is my son saw it. And they see that you can make mistakes and get past them. Yeah. I think I'm most proud of not giving up. Because there was definitely times I wanted to. Yeah. Not quitting. It was hard a lot of times. You know, for me, I wanted to live. I didn't want to die. I didn't want it to go out like my dad did and have my kids watch that. But for more than that, I wanted to live. You know, I wanted to be okay. I wanted to I didn't want to be the way I was. But it took a lot of work. You know, there's a lot in that. Like, if you want to change everything, you have to change everything. You know, in the beginning, people would say, who are you? And I'm like, I don't know who I am. I know who I don't want to be. And so in the beginning, like, I really focused on just doing stuff, not doing stuff I didn't want to, like, I didn't want to be this person. So I really focused on just not doing that stuff. Not necessarily doing something, but just not doing that. And that was enough. That's kind of how I made my start with it. And it just built from there. And then as time went on in the therapy and all that stuff, I started getting a glimpse of what life could really be. But there was very rough moments in there, moments where I didn't know if I really wanted to live. But thank God I did. Thank God I did. And I could have never imagined what life was like now. Not even I wouldn't believe it if you told me.